And I almost started that song up again. I just can't get enough of that song, our new lead-up song from the greatest Van Halen cover band of all time, Next Halen and Johnny Johns and his brother Derek Johns. I'm going to get the list of the entire band sooner or later, and I'll give you a full rundown of those guys that put that song together for us. Now, tonight we're going to talk about a little bit of Alabama and Oklahoma news, as well as Finebaum and the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey are saying that what the ACC done and their deal, most notably Finebaum, the deal that the ACC signed in order to keep Florida State and Clemson on board, the uneven revenue sharing, is basically doomed the ACC in the probably, I'd say 5 or 6 years from now, maybe even less, because there's other teams besides Clemson and Florida State that do have somewhat of a marketable brand, like North Carolina, Virginia Tech has been good in football in the past, Virginia, North Carolina State. All those programs have pretty big names, as well as the Miami Hurricanes, who've won more national championships than Clemson or Florida State. But before we get into all that, I'm going to go ahead and give our random Four Horsemen shout-outs of the day. And they go to, let me pull them up for y'all real quick. They go to Billy Burks, Texas Torpedo 01, Heath Stokes, and Keelback First are mounted up, saddled up, and ready to go. And they're going to help us with today's college football invasion. So, we'll see who we got in the comments already in here. See how many people we got fluttering up in here. We already have first batter up today was Thunder OU Center, who also has the best attendance of all time. He says there's a report that OU quarterback John Mateer is going to make $3 million in NIL. That is true. I've got that pulled up in one of my tabs up here. Rick Birdwell's also in the house. He has his badge. He's deputized. He's in the outlaw posse, as well as Nakia Webb. Let's go outlaw. I got my computer. I'm going to join the posse now. Well, get that badge, brother. And here he is. Nakia Webb has finally, Nakia Webb has joined the outlaw posse. And you'll get your badge and you'll be deputized on the next episode, on the next podcast of the Outlaw of College Football. We will introduce you. I'll put up a little graph for your name and all that good stuff. And now you'll be eligible for the random Four Horsemen shout, as well as possibly be the comment of the day. It's just $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. It's just a half a bottle of water for the outlaw. And you can be deputized and be in the outlaw posse like Nakia Webb just did. All right. Let's go ahead and I'll pull up this little article here. And we got some tournament basketball going on today. The bottom feeders of most conferences are playing today. Already seen one upset already. Grambling State upset Southern University. Those little small conferences never do put the number one seed in the tournament. It seems like they put a team in there that's got a 12-21 record like Grambling State. But that's another topic for another day. Let's go ahead and pull this up for y'all. There we go. Make sure y'all can see that. Yep. Paul Finebaum predicts that multiple schools will leave the ACC after resolution with Clemson and FSU. Paul Finebaum believes it's only a matter of time before we begin to see schools leave the ACC. The conference reached a settlement with Clemson and Florida State in an ongoing lawsuit regarding the league's revenue distribution. I don't understand why they bent the knee to Clemson and Florida State. I would just let the shit went to court. because these two were in the whole thing when they signed the contract 2036 with ESPN. So, I mean, it's just them reneging on the deal and being little spoiled brats because their in-state rivals, South Carolina and the Florida Gators, are making more money than them. It says here, the settlement has resulted in the exit fees for members of the conferences being reduced drastically. Beginning next year, the price to leave the ACC will go down from $200 million to $165 million. It will drop by $18 million every year after that, meaning the exit fee will fall under $100 million by the 2029-30 season, which is probably when there's going to be a mass exodus from the ACC. 1 year after 2030-31, it will go down to $75 million. So, yeah. This conference, the ACC, is about to be picked apart by the Big Ten and the SEC, in my opinion. And what's left over will more than likely go into the Big 12 or wherever else they can get, like the Mountain West or the MAC or wherever. More than likely, the Big 12 will pick up the scraps, and the Big 12 will actually benefit if this happens. The Big 12 may actually be able to become a third viable power conference to compete with the Big 10 in the SEC, but I would not hold my breath on that. More than likely what's going to happen is the ACC is going to go by the wayside, and then the Big 12 will be the next target. If you're the commissioner of the ACC, you have to live in the moment. The SEC network analyst said, that being Paul Finebaum. Yeah, you plan for the future, but you can't get too hung up on 5, 6, 7 years from now because there's a chance you won't be the commissioner. Talking about Jim Phillips. So it just looks like a matter of time to me. That buyout price is no big deal when you think about what it was, Finebaum said. It's pretty in line with what Oklahoma and Texas paid a couple of years ago, talking about the impending 2030, 2031 season where it comes down to 75 million. So I think, it said 75 million on the last one. So I think every conference, including the SEC and Big Ten, are carefully looking down toward what happened in the ACC and trying to figure out right now. It's not a big item. There are way too many important issues ahead. But I don't think there's any doubt the ACC put off the inevitable. I don't think there's any doubt that the ACC put off the inevitable, and the inevitable is a couple of schools, losing a couple of schools in the future. So basically what Finebaum is saying here, in my opinion, y'all can tell me maybe I misinterpreted this wrong, but what Finebaum is saying here is that by catering to Clemson and Florida State, like I said earlier, you're sort of insulting Miami, who's actually won more national championships in the biggest money-making sport, college football, than any of those two combined, I think. I think Florida State has 2 national titles, right, or 3, and Clemson the same thing. Miami has 5, albeit they have never won a playoff title or a BCS title, I don't think. Well, the BCS, they won the BCS title back in 2001 when it was still just a 2-team thing, and the Big Ten and the Pac-12 weren't in the fold yet, so it's still, people look at it sort of sideways. But as far as a playoff title goes, when we implemented the 4 teams, Miami has yet to make the playoffs, and Miami has yet to win a national championship since 2001. So I guess they've slipped in relevancy in the eyes of Florida State and Clemson. They think they can just take advantage of the situation. But like Finebaum went on to say in that article, I didn't read all of it, is that by catering to these two, it's just the inevitable's coming. I mean, the Big 12 tried the same thing with Oklahoma and Texas. Didn't they try unequal revenue sharing with Oklahoma and Texas a little bit? And Oklahoma and Texas left anyway. North Carolina State, Duke, big name in basketball, maybe not so much in football, but North Carolina and Duke carry a lot of weight in the second biggest money-making sport, that being men's basketball. They may not be too happy with this catering to Clemson and Florida State, especially North Carolina investing a lot in college football now, bringing in Bill Belichick. I might think everybody talks about Clemson and Florida State, and that's all everybody talks about as far as leaving. I think that maybe North Carolina is going to be the first team to leave because the SEC and the Big Ten both covet North Carolina. The SEC and the Big Ten won't in that North Carolina market. Neither conference is in that market. The Big Ten is stretched out nationwide. The only place they hadn't went nationally is to the South, the Deep South. And by Deep South, anything below the Virginia state line to me is Deep South. I know a lot of people consider Virginia part of the South, but I do not because they act like a bunch of liberal spastics. Oops, I said that out loud. My bad. All right. Who else we got in here? Killer Breeze is in the house. He's at a little hump day posse. That's right. We're humping it today. We're trying to get a little something going here. I done a video a few days back about these two jackasses that work for Locked On Sports. Locked On Left Behind Conference is what I call them because the Big 12 is the Left Behind Conference to me. Basically, Drake C. Toll or Troll, whatever his last name is, and some guy named Cam Stewart. We're basically making fun of Oklahoma and making little backhanded, snide little comments that they thought were, huckle, huckle, juckle, juckle, ha, ha, ha. Laughing it up, all spastic and stuff, talking about Oklahoma was going to come back to the Big 12 and was, basically they should make Oklahoma beg to come to the Big 12. If you hadn't seen that video, it was the last video I made on podcast a couple of days ago. Go check it out. But the Big 12 people, man, are something else. They can't get over Oklahoma and Texas leaving. They say they want to get out of Oklahoma and Texas' shadow. Then when things start to get just a little bit rough for them, they start making up these wild-ass accusations and scenarios that Oklahoma or Texas is coming back to the Big 12, and there's been rumors that Nebraska is even thinking about going back to the Big 12. I think it would be a good move for Nebraska to go back to the Big 12, to be honest with you. And it may even be a good move for Oklahoma to go back to the Big 12. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's just wishful thinking. But the Big 12 people need to quit stalking Oklahoma and Texas. It's not a good look. Y'all look like y'all emasculated. Y'all look like a scorned lover that, basically got the rug pulled out from underneath you and you can't recover. You act like you're over Oklahoma and Texas, and you act like you can move on, and then you can't. So get over it. Move on, Big 12. Stop talking about Oklahoma and Texas. Get them out of your mouth. If you don't want them talking shit about you, and by the way, I'm going to pull it up in just a second. I made a little comment on X about it, and them two guys, along with Locked On Sports, reported me to X, the site that's supposed to not censor people. The big-time Elon Musk takeover. No more censorship. But what they do? They took my damn post down because I was making fun of them and Locked On Sports for them getting in there and basically making an ass out of themselves and saying a bunch of shit that wasn't even closely or remotely accurate. Like one of the things was, this wasn't a big deal or imperative to the conversation, but one of the big things was they said that Oklahoma is not going to fire Brent Venables in the next couple of years regardless of what happens because he's a native son. Brent Venables is not a native son. Yes, he coached at Oklahoma as a defensive coordinator and went on to Clemson. He was at Oklahoma for a long time as a defense coordinator, but he's not a native son. And if you're going to make and come on there and huckle it up and sitting here and laugh like a bunch of spastics about some shit, make sure that it's at least close to being the truth. Brent Venables is I think he was originally born in Florida, moved to Kansas, went to a junior college in Kansas, and then transferred to Kansas State. He's not a native son of Oklahoma. Just one of those little red flags that says these guys don't do the research. They just get in there and they throw shit against the wall, or they see something that was thrown against the wall. They see some shit thrown against the wall. They peel it off the wall and try to throw it against their wall and hope it sticks and nobody calls them out. But sorry to get back on a tangent about that, but that shit really aggravated me the other day. And I'm not an original Oklahoma fan. I have become somewhat of an Oklahoma fan. Alabama's my team, but Oklahoma is a close second, as well as a few other teams. I got 5 or 6 teams I like. It's not called being a bandwagon. It's just called that there's just other teams that you like, But, I always root for Alabama. Bandwagon would be not to root for your team. in a couple of years when they're supposed to be your number one team. It'd be like me saying, all right, I'm going to root for Oklahoma over Alabama. That's bandwagon. But you can still have a top 5 or 10 programs that you like, right? So let's go ahead and bring up what Greg Sankey said. And then we'll get to the Oklahoma stuff that I got here for y'all, Oklahoma contingent, as well as some Alabama news coming up. Let's see what we got here. All right. Make sure I got that up for y'all. Greg Sankey takes a shot at the ACC's unequal revenue sharing model. It just hasn't worked well. Greg Sankey has seen the ACC's plan for unequal revenue sharing model, and he's not a fan. The SEC commissioner isn't planning on instituting a similar structure for his conference in the foreseeable future, as he believes it isn't the best long-term strategy. There is a history of unequal revenue sharing in those conferences. It just hasn't worked out for a long-term situation, says Greg Sankey via Scott Hamilton of the Post-Courier. In fact, the conferences that have chosen to do so have generally either they don't exist anymore at a high level or they've gone in a different direction. He's speaking of the Big 12, I bet you, because they tried the unequal revenue sharing with Oklahoma and Texas, and it didn't work out because Oklahoma and Texas left anyway. I'm sure what others have done will introduce the conversation. I hope we're careful and responsible in how we do that. They made the decision for their purposes. That doesn't necessarily mean that it fits our purposes, our values. Talking about possibly the SEC doing an uneven revenue sharing model, which is not going to happen. The ACC came up with a new model in light of working towards a settlement with Florida State and Clemson. In the process, they've amended a number of issues like the conference's exit fees, which we just talked about. So now you have Greg Sankey coming out and saying basically that the ACC is pretty stupid for doing what they did. Nakia Webb says, and he's got his badge. Look, your badge is up there. We got Nakia Webb deputized today. Yeah, that feels good to always get another person in the posse. All right. Nakia Webb has his badge. He's deputized. We appreciate the coverage of OU News. I watch you before the other talking heads who love OU. They're great, but they aren't spicy enough for my palate. Well, I appreciate that, Nakia. I appreciate that a lot, brother. I like to institute a little comedy every once in a while, and that's what aggravates people. Some people, sometimes they're the butt end of the joke, and they don't like it. So that's why I get a lot of people that unsubscribe sometimes. Nakia Webb says, I am excited to see John Mateer transition from that conference to the SEC. I don't know if it will translate. Well, I'm praying it does. Now, back to what I was talking about. Y'all think it's a mistake, the uneven revenue sharing for the ACC? I think it is. I think that for a change, whether people like Paul Finebaum or whether they don't, or whether they like Greg Sankey or they don't, I think they're pretty right on this one. You've got more than just Florida State and Clemson. And Clemson hasn't always been great. They just now are Johnny-come-lately, really. They won 2 national titles in the late teens. They have yet to win one this decade, and it's halfway over. They've won 3 national titles overall in the 130-year history of college football. Florida State, I think, has won 2 or 3, but they were 2-10 last year. Things go in cycles, especially for these kind of teams. These are middle-of-the-road, win a national championship ever so often programs. These are not considered to me as blue bloods yet. Florida State was on the cusp there for a little while being a blue blood, but they never could win the national title. They'd always find a way to lose it. They did win 2 or 3. And Clemson, same thing. They disappeared for almost 30 years, and now they're back, and not really back because now it looks like they're slipping again. Even though they did back into the playoffs, it's just I don't think it's going to work out because I think bigger brands that can stand up to them, like North Carolina State, Duke, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and Miami, specifically Miami, because Miami has 5 national titles in football. Those programs I just mentioned may just take a hike in 2030 or 2031. Those programs may leave before Florida State and Clemson leave. And if there's not enough spots left for Florida State and Clemson, they may get left out. Florida State and Clemson may end up in the Big 12. I don't think it'll happen, but it could. I mean, because like I said, the SEC's already got a team in the Florida market and the South Carolina market, so they really don't need Florida State and Clemson. The only reason the SEC would take them is to keep the Big Ten from getting them. But the Big Ten is eventually going to get into the Southern market. Whether the SEC likes it or not, it's going to happen because more than likely, if they can't get North Carolina or Florida State or Miami, they're going to get somebody from the South, probably Georgia Tech. The Atlanta market is huge. I'm sure Georgia doesn't want Georgia Tech to be in the SEC or the Big Ten. I think they'd much rather have Georgia Tech stay in the ACC. So the Big Ten is going to eventually get in the Southern market. So Florida State and Clemson showing their ass right now, they may be ass out. They may be the teams that's trying to hold up the ACC in the end. Be careful what you wish for, man. Karma's a bitch. Karma can be a complete bitch sometimes. Florida State and Clemson better tread lightly, in my opinion. Big Orange is in the house. We have to get to Big Orange. We don't got a Tennessee guy in the Outlaw Posse, Nakia. We need to talk Big Orange in the joint. You need to recruit him for us. He probably won't take kindly to me recruiting because I'm an Alabama guy. But maybe a Sooner can talk Big Orange into being our first volunteer. Play on words. Volunteer to be in the Outlaw Posse, Big Orange. It's $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. Get your badge, get deputized. Get your random 4 horseman shout out. Big Orange says, what's up, Outlaw brother? I know we butt heads because I'm a Tennessee guy and our fans have a bad name, but I'm here to tell you that I do have respect for both Oklahoma and Alabama. Appreciate it, brother. Bagman is also in the house. What's up, says Bagman. What's up, my brother? But Big Orange thinks that Alabama will more than likely beat Tennessee this year. I don't know. Tennessee's due a win in Tuscaloosa. Y'all haven't beat us in Tuscaloosa in almost 20 years. Going on 18 years, I think, since y'all beat us in Tuscaloosa. So y'all do a win in Tuscaloosa, Big Orange. So it would not surprise me on the flip side of that if Tennessee beat Alabama back-to-back years. Because it's usually a streaky series. Up until here recently, it's usually a real streaky series. Because I think before Alabama went on their run, Tennessee had beaten us 4 or 5 years in a row before that, maybe 6. Fred Bagley's in the house. Going to be some hurt feelings when it goes to a super conference, says Fred Bagley, who has his badge and he is deputized as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the link down here. I'm going to go ahead and put this link down here. So if anybody wants to join, anybody that's been commenting in the comment section, that's the only thing I ask. If you want to be on the show, at least have been active in the comment section or have introduced yourself to me in some other form or fashion, whether it be on X through DMs or Facebook Messenger or wherever we talk, or in this live chat right here. We need to know who you are just a little bit before we let you jump up in here and try to troll us. Also, let's see what we got here. I'm going to invite somebody else up in here. Somebody that a lot of people really like. Oh, Numbskull News. Fred Bagley loves Numbskull News. He probably won't come, but I'm going to send him an invite anyway. Because I want to get his take on this whole conference realignment stuff that's going on. All right. But there is the link to the invite Steve Lee's, huh? I think Steve Lee's had enough of us. When Matt McWilliams outed him, sent us a picture of Steve Lee's and his skittle-shitting husband, and we posted it in here, and I haven't seen Steve Lee since, man. I probably shouldn't have done that. I took it a little too far, but Killer Breeze and Matt McWilliams and Fred Bagley and a number of other people, Ryan Thibodeau, a.k.a. Big Stack Kelly, all those guys encouraged me to do it. And you know how it is when you get a crowd of guys together, If you get triple dog there, it's like the whole tongue to the frozen pole on Christmas Story. When you get triple dog there, you got to do it. And they triple dog dared me, so I had to do it. So he's gone. Now let's pull up some Oklahoma news for the Oklahoma people up in here. This is something that Thunder OU Center sent me, but this ain't the exact article that he sent me. I don't know why they got a Washington jackass up here. From Athlon Sports, being among college football's top quarterbacks demands a hefty payday in the NIL era. Blah, 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 blah. Arch Manning, Carson Beck, Florida's DJ Lagway lead the group with valuations of $3.8 million heading into the 2025 season. There isn't much of a monetary drop-off for unrenowned passers either, as a report on Wednesday revealed that Washington State transfer quarterback John Mateer, who signed with Oklahoma Sooners on a deal worth $3 million per year. Damn. That's a lot of money for a quarterback that really hasn't come in and exactly proven himself in a big-time atmosphere. I wouldn't consider Washington State and the Pac-2 a big-time atmosphere. That's a lot of money, in my opinion. I mean, I hope y'all know what you're doing, man. I hope it works out for you, because I really like to see Oklahoma return to being the Oklahoma that we all know that they should be. Says Oklahoma head coach Brent Venables struggled to find consistency at the position last year behind Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins Jr. The Sooners finished 6-7, blah, blah, blah. Faced with some tough decisions to address the offensive issues, Oklahoma responded by bringing in Ben Arbuckle out of Washington State, as well as John Mateer. It says Mateer is a 6'1", 219 pounds, had never logged a start before taking over as a redshirt sophomore in 2024, originally a 3-star. Recruit went on to complete 64.6% of his passes, 3,139 yards, and 29 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, while adding 826 yards rushing. So he must be a pretty fast guy. He almost rushed for 1,000 yards for a quarterback and threw for 3,000 yards. That's pretty impressive. Mateer will have some competition to win the starting role as Hawkins returns after logging 3 starts for the Center as a freshman. So Oklahoma began spring practice last week, and the period will end and culminate with a scrimmage game on April the 12th, which is not accurate because it's not going to be a scrimmage game. It's going to be a combine. Athlon Sports. So, for all you Sooners out there, what do y'all think about that? I've always heard, I mean, it's something you can brag about, really. Like, look, we're paying people too. We got the money. We're throwing out the big dollars. But it's a double-edged sword to me. You know, what if you pay $3 million for this guy and he either flops or gets injured? Just saying. I think it's getting out of control. And I think Alabama probably did the same thing with Jalen Miller last year. I believe we paid him like $2.5 million, $3 million, something like that. And when we give him the money before the season, and look how he played. He played like shit. They get that money sometimes. They get lackadaisical, and they just go out there and they put it on cruise control. And some of them even lay down. I had Killer Breeze tell me numerous times that he thought that some of those wide receivers that were supposedly injured weren't really injured. They were just laying down and drawing a check on Oklahoma's dime. So I don't know, man. I'd be glad when they come out with the new rules and revenue share and all this other stuff and make rules to where teams like Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio stink, so they can't do stuff like that. Because all we're doing is breaking each other for players that haven't even really earned $3 million, in my opinion. Yeah, he looked great at Washington State, but he hadn't done that in the SEC. So why pay him that much? I guess you had to, because if you hadn't, somebody else would have, right? Nakia Webb says Oklahoma invests millions of dollars into its Sooners team. BV, you said VB. BV needs to be tougher on them, boys. We're in just for the cash over. I'm afraid I'm losing the interest in college football. I'm with you, brother. I told everybody if the new rules that they're implementing this year with the NCAA do not have some teeth, do not make them start abiding by certain rules, if they don't have it to where they're leaving in the middle of the year now. Bear Alexander was the biggest one. He was at USC and he left in the middle of the year. They need to make them sign contracts. And they need to have rules against tampering. That's simple, man. All they got to do, and I know they don't want to take advice from the NFL because they try to consider themselves a different entity altogether, but we all know they're just a farm system for the NFL. They need to get with the NFL and see what they did and get with their legal teams so they can curb the stupid-ass lawsuits that are brought by normally not the young men, but their stupid relatives and nefarious agents out there, especially the relatives, man. Relatives are living vicariously through these kids, and they're trying to get their piece of the pie to go along with their kid. I don't know how to say that last name, but I'll try. Stoa from 0-3 covers the team just for reference. Okay, I don't know who that is. I don't really watch a lot of 0-3 stuff. Every once in a while, I'll pull one of the articles over here and use it, but I'm just not sure who that guy is. George Stoa says $3 million will be the total over 2 years if Mateer stays that long. $3 million over 2 years. Okay, so that's $1.5 million. You're still paying over $1 million for a player. Just saying. I know everybody else is doing it, so y'all got to do it. That's why they got to come this year and put some rules in place with some teeth. Just like Nikhil Webb said, I'm getting a little aggravated with it. If it's not taken care of this year, because I love college football, I'm going to stick around at least for another year or two. I'm going to start just watching NFL. And I never thought I'd say that. But at least with the NFL, like I've said 100,000 times on here, at least they have rules in place that keep you from having your team tampered with and players leaving after a half a year. Nobody got two hats up there right now. Oh, you see my finger right here? There it is. Oh, too far. Right there. All right. Dallas and New Orleans. Those are the two teams I'm considering. I'm going to put them on the table one day, and I'm going to make me a decision like these diva recruits do. We got Larry Trawiecki in the house. He's our resident Nebraska guy. Cornhuskers in here. You know what 3 means with Matt Rule. What year 3? What in here? Man, I can't even read today. In here, you know what year 3 means with Matt Rule. Well, yeah. If Matt Rule goes to form like he has in his coaching career in year 3, Matt Rule usually has a pretty good team. One that usually wins double digits, maybe more. It's just talking about Nebraska, Larry. There's also rumors that Nebraska wants to go back to the Big 12. You know, I lit those guys up in my last podcast, the Locked On Big 12. I call them, it's called Locked On Big 12, but I call them Locked On with Left Behind Conference because they are the Left Behind Conference. You know, Oklahoma and Texas left behind, and they're still pining for them and making little silly-ass videos about them coming back to the Big 12 like they did. Now, I could be wrong, and Oklahoma might go back to the Big 12. It might not be a bad idea. I'm not saying that Oklahoma scared the SEC. I'm just saying that the SEC may have overloaded itself, in my opinion. We got too many football powers in this conference, which means that somebody's got to lose. And what's going to normally happen probably is like last year, people just beating up on each other. Alabama would beat South Carolina. Alabama would beat like, who was it? Georgia. Or we beat like Georgia, and Georgia turn around and lose to a team that beat them, and another team that beat them. They just taking turns beating up on each other. It just makes no sense, man. For the SEC to have so many football powers, we need to expand our portfolio, our resume, so to speak, and start taking some basketball brand schools. Although this year in basketball, the SEC owns college basketball now. That may be where it's going. If football ends up going broke and screws itself by, acquiescing to all these spoiled ass brats, then basketball may be where it's at, because it's probably a lot less money that you have to invest. You don't have as many players on the team that you have to pay, and the equipment's cheaper. The stadium upkeep's cheaper. Everything's cheaper about basketball, and basketball brings in millions and millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars. Not as much as football, but if football ends up breaking itself, we all may be wanting to be basketball fans before long. Like I said, I dropped a let me drop it in here again. There's the StreamYard link. If you want to be on the show, if you want to talk about anything that I've been talking about tonight, just hit that StreamYard link right there, and you can be on the show. Also, there's a lot of comments coming in here. I can't see everybody's comment. If you want me to read your comment out and answer your question quicker and more directly, there's a little money dollar sign at the bottom. Click on that, write your comment out, then hit send. Don't hit send the second time before you write your comment out. And as Killer Breeze said, smash that like button for me. Just jump out. Won't take but 2 or 3 seconds. Smash the like button. Helps the algorithm, pushes us out to more people, gets this party more crunk. We got about 25, 30 people in here right now. Kevron Harris is in the house. Says Finebaum is a joke. A lot of people say that. And he does say some stuff sometimes. It's aggravating and troll-esque, Kevron. But to be honest with you, the guy's really not that much of a joke. The guy's been around for a long time, so he's obviously knows a little bit of something what he's doing to keep his job, right? Some of the stuff he says, you're right, I don't like. It's pretty irritating, some of the dumb shit he says. But on this one right here, I think he knows what he's talking about, Kevron. I think that the ACC may have made a huge mistake by catering to your team, Clemson and Florida State, because there's other big brands in that conference, man. This ain't like the Big 12, where they were the left-behind conference, and Oklahoma and Texas were basically their main cash cow. Florida State and Clemson ain't been the main cash cow all the time for the ACC. North Carolina has been good in football off and on, very good in basketball. Duke, very good in basketball. Virginia Tech has been good in football in the past. Virginia, decent, won a national championship in basketball a few years ago. Miami of Florida. The Hurricanes have won 5 national championships, man. That's more than Florida State or Clemson. So what I'm saying is you don't need to just cater to 2 teams in a conference where there's other big-name brands that can carry themselves. The Big 12 didn't really have that. They might try to say they did, but they didn't. Those Baylor quacks over there talking that smack because they've had a couple of seasons this century where they won more than 9 or 10 games, and all of a sudden they think they're king ding-a-ling, and they're not. Because we see them just slide back to 4-8 with the quickness all the time with Baylor, and even 2-10. I remember some years Baylor was 1-11. So the Big 12, you can't compare it to the Big 12. People are like, well, Oklahoma and Texas did over the Big 12. Yeah, and you see what happened? Oklahoma and Texas left. But in this case, Oklahoma and Texas aren't. They were the only 2 big names in that conference to me, as far as football goes. Kansas State was decent, but they never won a national championship. The ACC has teams in that conference that have been big in the 2 big money-making sports, football and men's basketball. So I just think it's a mistake for them to do that, because now you're going to have everybody hating on Clemson and Florida State. And Florida State's already went 2-10 last year. Are they going to be able to recover from that? Do they actually deserve to have unequal revenue sharing for them? I hope it's not just about Florida State and Clemson. Maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe it's not just about Florida State and Clemson. Maybe it's going to be unequal revenue sharing for those that finish in the top 2 or 3 or 4 of that conference, the top 4 get the most money every year. I heard that might be the case. And if that's the case, then Florida State and Clemson are taking too much of the blame. OU is not leaving the SEC. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Only right-wing Duck fans, I've been watching more basketball this year. Yeah, I've been watching more college basketball than I have. I don't watch NBA, though. It would take a lot for me to go back to the NBA, man. They'd have to ostracize LaChina James and those other dorks out there and his nepotism son. If they would chastise them and make them make fun of them or grill them at the stake, maybe I'll come back to the NBA then. Nakia Webb says OU needs to roll with the punches in the SEC. We better not leave. I agree with that. Although I will say that I do miss the days of there being a legit Big 12. You know, before Texas A&M Missouri left, that was a legitimate conference, man. That conference was nothing to joke about. Those teams could put an ass whooping on you. I just hit the like button, says Johnny Johns. Well, appreciate that, Johnny Johns. Y'all hear about Drake Stoops? I guess he was doing it the old Brian Bosworth day, which brings me to one of my articles that I had pulled up for y'all. I was going to ask y'all about that. Here it is. Just for you, Johnny Johns. I already had it pulled up, brother. NFL suspends former Oklahoma wide receiver Drake Stoops for 2 games. As a reserve wideout with the Los Angeles Rams, Stoops was punished for violating the league's policy on performance-enhancing drugs. He does look a little stacked right there, don't he? He got a nice little cut going on for him. Look like a miniature version of Chris Benoit or something. Or John Cena. John Cena will say some stupid shit. I don't do that. Yeah, you do. Former Oklahoma wide receiver Drake Stoops has been suspended without pay by the NFL. He violated the NFL's policy against performance-enhancing substances, which likely means steroids, I guess. I don't know what they do these days. Maybe something different. So they had released him, but re-signed him for $225,000 a year, plus an $8,000 signing bonus. In January, he signed a reserve and future contract with the Rams for $840,000. Stoops, son of Oklahoma coach Bob Stoops, walked on OU in 2018 as a true freshman from Norman North High School and played in 6 seasons for the Sooners. So, what do y'all think about that? Here's the question that a lot of people are going to say. This ain't me saying it now, so y'all don't get mad at me. But I can already hear some Oklahoma haters out there saying, well, he probably did it at Oklahoma. Because, you know, back in the day, that's what they did with Brian Bosworth. That's what I'm a man, I'm 55 will say. Oh, Mike Gundy talking about he left a party because Bosworth was coming. And he didn't want to be around Bosworth because he heard Bosworth was coked up and on steroids. Bosworth got wind of it and told him, hey, you want to discuss it at midfield next time y'all play? Next time Oklahoma State play, let's go out to midfield and discuss it, brother. He ain't running his damn mouth, man. Being a little snitch. Oh, snitch Gundy. I don't like Finebaum. I never have, says Fred Bagley. Well, I ain't gonna lie to you, Fred. I do like Finebaum sometimes, and sometimes I don't. He's one of those off again, on again things for me. But what he said today, and what Greg Sankey said today about the ACC showing favoritism to Florida State and Clemson is spot on, because it's going to make all the other brands think, hey, you know, we're contributing here. This ain't the Big 12. This ain't the Left Behind conference. This is a conference that's been known to be great, especially in college basketball up until recently. And it's just like the SEC, you know, we're sliding a little bit in football the last couple of years, but we'll be right back up there. The ACC will be right back up there on top in college basketball. I do believe that. Wait, what happened to Drake? Well, I just read it out. He got suspended for taking some kind of banned substance, whether it be steroids or, I don't know, might be extra strength Viagra. I don't know what he took, but he took something he wasn't supposed to take. John Johns, yep. I already know about that. I just read that out. You don't need to look it up. I just showed it to you, Nakia. Just pulled it up, brother. Texas A&M. Me and my old man hated those Saturdays. Hated what Saturdays? All right, I'm going to pull something up now about Alabama real quick that even Oklahoma and Tennessee people, they're in here, among others, will even like to hear this because this could be your former coach, especially Barry Switzer. The FCC read the FCC complaints about Nick Saban swearing on ESPN. Someone went and reported Nick Saban for cursing. Former Alabama football coach Nick Saban made waves December the 7th while performing his analyst duties on ESPN's College Game Day ahead of that day's SEC championship game between Texas and Georgia. Saban discussed both schools were fined a week before due to flag planting incidents across college football. This is what got him fined. This is pretty funny. I think to fine these schools $100,000 is like worrying about mouse manure when you're up to your ears in elephant shit, Saban said on the set of Game Day in Atlanta. Now, you got to give it to him, man. He comes up with some catchphrases, you know. Oh, Nick Saban should be in the WWE or at least be a manager in the WWE. Says the quip was one of several profanities the 7-time national champion coach uttered during the day's broadcast after the game went off the air. One concerned viewer in Lee Summit, Missouri decided to take action. Wow. Damn, you ain't got nothing else better than doing your day. Tend to run to the FCC and go through the trouble of writing an email because someone said the word shit. The Federal Communications Commission received a complaint regarding Saban swearing the author wanted significant penalties for saying the word shit. Well, damn, I guess the FCC going to be coming for me next. Damn, man. People are so weak these days. So weak, man. So weak. I can understand now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he should be just dropping F-bombs and saying MF and GD. I'm not saying that. Those are over-the-top vulgar words with vulgar connotations. But the words shit, damn, hell, jackass, BS, those words are what I consider PG-13 cuss words that everybody says. Everybody says those words every once in a while, even Christians. They may not admit it, but they say it. Nick Saban said the word shit twice, bitch once, and something else I can't remember. Well, damn, it must not have been that bad if you can't remember it, jackass. Oh, I said jackass. That's another one for me. The complaint obtained by AL.com via Federal Freedom of Information Act to the FCC. He said, I tune in to gain knowledge and insight on college football, not to have profanity stuffed in my face by a former coach trying to be funny. Damn, I'd hate to live in that dude's household. I bet he has no sense of humor. I will continue until you find them millions of dollars more. Chinky fines accomplished nothing. Chinky fines? You want him to find him? Now you don't want him to find him? You're going to call him chinky fines? Man, who are you wanting to dictate what people can and cannot do or can and cannot say? Throughout the college football season, the FCC received 3 obscenity complaints mentioning Saban. None of them came from the state of Alabama. Well, no shit. Oops, I said shit again. The aforementioned complaint was the first one of the FCC. The second came just 18 minutes later. Mentioned, he probably got one of his buddies to get on there and stroke one out. And mentioned Saban's fellow game day analyst, Pat McAfee. Well, no shit. 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 Like I said, man, I don't go out of my way to cuss on here. It just slips out every once in a while. But this really aggravates me. These are like PG-13 cuss words that you would probably hear on the Cosby Show back in the day. I continually hear profanity on College Game Day, which airs on ESPN. The author purported to be writing from Forest City, North Carolina. The show comes on from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Children are obviously awake and can be exposed. My children got exposed to the word elephant shit. Today, Nick Saban used a profane word bullshit on the air. Ooh. Most every show I watch, Pat McAfee's using profanity. I don't understand why they're not stopping this. The window is 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for children-centered programming. No one is able to sit down with their children and watch a football show without exploding into profanity. Like I said, I can understand if people get mad if we drop the F-bomb. I do it every once in a while, and I always feel bad after doing it. I'm not doing that to patronize y'all or to be facetious. I can say stuff all the time without cussing. You're right. We don't need to cuss all the time. That's true. But man, the word shit, jackass, ass, damn, hell, come on, man. This guy that reported Nick Saban for saying the word shit probably says the word shit all the time in front of his kids. And if he don't want his kids being exposed to any kind of cuss words, then he probably don't need to send them to school. You might have to homeschool your child, which is not a bad thing, by the way. I homeschool my children. But I didn't homeschool them for that reason. I homeschool them because public schools are so dangerous now. The teachers don't stop people from bullying people. They got these bullying commercials and programs that they claim to preach, and then they don't follow up on it. That's why I took my kids out of public school, but not because someone might have said a PG-13 cuss word. Your commentary is coming in a lot later than my comments are being put. We hated Saturdays playing Texas A&M because they always upset us. They played their best game against OU. The 12th man is real. Yeah, well, sometimes your comments get pushed up and I can't see them. That's why I said if y'all want to, y'all can use the little $money sign and it'll highlight it and put it up. I'm not trying to hound you for money. I'm just saying that it will do that, and it's not a lot of money. It's just like $2 to $5 according to how long your comment is. They charge you more by the characters, but anywhere from $2 to $5 to $10, you can make an easy comment if you really want me to answer a question. Rodney Dawkins in the house says the same people that hate Saban are the same people that hate Trump, and for the same reason, because these two men are winners and haters can't stand winners. That is true to a degree, although sadly, Rodney, I hate to tell you this because it broke my heart too, Nick Saban is a libtard. That's right, he's a liberal. Now, I think he might be old school Democrat like I used to be. I was a conservative Democrat back in the day, no longer. The Democratic Party's been hijacked, like I said, by a bunch of liberal spastics, people that don't really believe in doing what's right. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. It doesn't matter to me. Both sides are corrupt. They don't need to have party labels anymore. That's just my opinion. Gump 2020. Oklahoma is competing for the SEC this time around. Well, I hope you're right. But if I had to make a prediction right now, since y'all got John Mature, I'm interested to see how good he really is. And if he's as good as advertised, if you have a decent quarterback running the system with a good defense like you had last year, I could definitely see y'all improving on a 6 and 7 year. I could see Oklahoma at least going 8-4 next year, or 9-3. So, what does Brent Venables have to do to save his job next year? Should be my question to y'all. if I'm an Oklahoma fan, with the shit he had to inherit and the stuff he's had to go through, that's sort of becoming an excuse now. We've been saying it for 3 years now, so now he's going to have to start producing. This is his year, and especially the next following year if he's still there. I don't see Brent getting more than 5 seasons at Oklahoma if he does not compete for an SEC title by his 5th or 6th year. That's my opinion. I think that Brent Venables next year needs to go at least 8-4 or 9-3 to save his job. Johnny John says, by the way, Numbskull News is in here. I sent you an invite in case you wanted to be on, brother. We went through a lot of the ACC stuff already, but if you want to come in here and give your take on it, I did send you a link to be on the show tonight. You'd said something about you wanted to be on the show eventually, but I did send you a link. I can also put up another link down here like I did a while ago. Anybody wants to be on the show, that someone that's actually participated. If you don't participate in the chat or I haven't talked to you offline, I'm not going to let you on because you might be a troll. All you got to do is comment in this comment section right here, the gallery, as I call it, and you can be on the show. By Guy 1218 was on the show. Oregon guy here recently, Robert Bacon. At least you don't swear excessively. No, I don't. Until tonight, I was just doing it to aggravate a while ago. I do occasionally slip up and say the word shit, like Saban does, but I try not to drop the F-bomb and MF and GD. Those are the 3 big ones that I try not to say. Also, the P word. You'll hear me say the word pudding a lot. That's my substitute. What you can do is go through and find nice little substitutes for those words. Like the F-bomb, you can say the word fug, F-U-G. Instead of the P word pertaining vulgarly to a woman's vagina, you can say pudding. That's my adjective lesson for the day. Well, y'all can give me a tip for that now? Just playing, man. Just playing. Johnny John says, I feel like 8-4 is a safe bet for sure. A tough schedule, 9 wins would be great. 10 wins would blow my mind. Hope I'm wrong, but 8 or 9 is what I bet on. Okay. All right. So let's say Oklahoma goes 8-4 next year, regular season. They win their bowl game. That's 9-4. So are you saying they got to win 8 regular season games or 8 games overall? Because if it's 8 games overall in a bowl game, it'd be 8-5. What does Brent Venables have to do regular season to keep his job, Johnny, in your opinion? 8, it's according to how you lose those 4 games, too, man. It's just who you lose to and how you lose. Like, for example, what if Oklahoma started 8-0 and then lost the last 4 games? Something like that would probably leave a bad taste in the administration's mouth, although I don't think that Joe Castiglione really wants to fire Brent Venables. I think he really likes Brent Venables a lot. Numbskull News says the ACC is going straight to hell. Yeah, we just talked about that, brother. If you'll come back, if you come in here, I'll run it down for you again. Basically, what I said was that normally I don't agree with Finebaum, and sometimes I don't really agree with Greg Sankey, our commissioner. There's some of the stuff he does and says I don't like either. But this time Finebaum's right. I think catering to just Clemson and Florida State is a mistake, especially in that conference where you got name brands in big name sports like college basketball, like North Carolina, Duke, Virginia Tech, NC State. All 3 of those teams in North Carolina have won national titles in basketball. I think NC State has 2. North Carolina has 5 or 6. Duke, same thing. I just think it's a big mistake to cater to just 2 brands. This is not the Big 12 or the Left Behind Conference. This is a lot different, in my opinion. Robert Bacon says supposedly John Mature has some Baker Mayfield in him. Hopefully the offensive line holds up. Personally, I give BV through 2026. The schedule will get much easier in 2026 and 2027. Really? Is it? Do they have it posted? I can pull it up for you if you want me to. We can take a look at it if y'all want to. But first, I'm going to get to something else. It's more an Alabama angle here. I want to get out there for the Alabama folks up in here. All right. During the latest episode of The Tides of Bind, Alabama Athletic Director Greg Burns shared what it was like to hear Saban share his retirement news. Greg Burns said he told Nick Saban, if you start talking about off-season workouts and academics and priorities, that I'm going to disappear out the back of the room. Nobody knows I was going to be there. But I said, if you start doing the retirement speech, that's when the plans start going into place. Jeff Springer, the Associate AD of Equipment Operations, thought it seemed like a normal day until he heard Saban stumble towards the end of his speech. When Coach got on the first stage, he was having his normal conversations like we were getting ready to fight for another title, said Clinton Dix, the Director of Player Development. Towards the end of the conversation in the meetings, he started stumbling a little bit, like he started getting teary-eyed. You could feel the energy change in the room. So it looks like what Nick Saban said about his retirement speech. I don't know if y'all saw what he said about it. I don't have it pulled up, but I can tell you this. Nick Saban said that he really didn't know he was going to retire until right then. Like right when he said, I'm retiring, he really hadn't made his mind up. He said going into the meeting, he was back and forth. He said he was emotional, could barely talk. As he said right there, he was stumbling at the end and choking on his words. So he almost didn't retire. So for all you Saban haters out there, hate to give you a scare like that, but you almost stayed. You almost stayed for another couple of years. So you got to wonder how he would have done with last year's team. You know, he had some moments his last season there where his team sort of felt like it laid down on him against South Florida, specifically when they benched Jalen Milroe. Then you had the Cancer Five, his little buddies, who I used to give hell all the time to last year, that were saying that if he got benched outside of injury, that they would lay down. I have a feeling that sometimes that those guys on that team, whether they want to admit it or not, some of those guys associated with Jalen Milroe, and Nick Saban will never say it, but I think that and the NIL and all this stuff that the NCAA has just been letting go on Wild West basically run Nick Saban off. Everybody says it's just the NIL and the transfer pool that run him off, but I think that the way some of those players acted in his last year and the way they acted this first year of Kalen DeBoer sort of makes me think that those guys were really giving Nick Saban fits. Numbskull U says his wife hates when I say gash. What's gash a substitute for? What's it a substitute for? I don't get it. Explain it to me. Rodney Dawkins says pudding is a good idea because my wife can't stand the actual word when I slip up. I have to listen to a sermon. My wife's the same way, Rodney. That's why I don't say it. First, I didn't understand why, because I personally it don't bother me when someone refers to my penis as a cock or a dick. Excuse my name and say that's dirty. I shouldn't have said that. But I don't care what you call my penis. It don't matter to me. But women are different. They always are, ain't they? They feel like it's disrespectful. And the way the word sounds, it does sound a little bit disrespectful, I must admit. And therefore, that's why I say the word pudding to substitute for that vulgar word. Virginia won March Madness a few years ago. Yes, they did. Virginia won the national championship after they got booted in the first round as a first seed. If you remember the year before Virginia won the national title, they were the first number 1 seed ever to lose to a 16 seed. And then they followed that up by winning the national title. Purdue sort of did the same thing, except they didn't win at all. Purdue was the second number 1 seed to go down ever. And they went on to play in the national title game the year after. So gives them a little bit of an axe to grind. And that worries me a little bit because Auburn was bounced by Yale last year. So Auburn might have an axe to grind. Let's hope not. Yeah, last thing I need to hear is some damn War Eagles talking about, we won a national championship in the second biggest money-making sport, and Alabama's never won one. Give them something. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be greedy like that, man. You got to come have something, right? Like, y'all used to let Okie Pokey Chokey State, Oklahoma people, y'all had y'all's little charity case in football with them. Y'all used to let them win at wrestling, right? If the offense would have sucked a little bit less, they could have won 8 last year. Turnovers against Tennessee, Army. Y'all played Army last year? Y'all played Navy, didn't you? Tennessee, Navy, and Missouri screwed them from winning a few more games. I'm not saying they would have won all 3, but even if they could win 2 out of those 3. A lot of people say that Josh Heupel took the gas off, that he tried not to run the score up on y'all. But that's hard for me to believe he let y'all get that close. That's just a little too close for comfort. I think Josh probably got scared a little bit, and that might be why he sort of honed it in and went conservative in the second half. Oklahoma will get to play the bottom half of the SEC teams instead of the top half. It will flip from Texas SEC schedule. Let's see. I'll pull it up just for you, Robert. All right. All right, here we go. I'm going to pull it up for you because Oklahoma people treat me well. The rest of y'all treat me well. I won't tell y'all to go to hell. I'll be nice to you like I am Oklahoma. Oklahoma, Alabama, LSU. Those are my 3 favorite fan bases. I know a lot of people don't like LSU, but, hey. To each their own. LSU people treated me well when I went down to the Independence Bowl back when Alabama really sucked. Give me a ticket to an all-you-can-eat, all-you-can-booze tent. And I'm not like to not have made it to the Independence Bowl. And I did make it, but I didn't give a shit if we won or not at that point because I was, I was well lit. Anyway, let me pull this up for y'all. Let's see if they got it added for y'all. Yeah, they got it right there. Robert Bacon, here is what you got going on for Oklahoma in 2026. Y'all played the UTEP Miners in the first game, then y'all at Michigan, New Mexico Lobos, Texas Longhorns, but it doesn't show your SEC schedule yet. So they do not have the SEC schedules posted yet from FBS schedules. Maybe you've got another link you can share with me. So they haven't decided yet. From what that's saying, they have not decided yet, Robert Bacon, exactly who Oklahoma is going to be playing in their SEC schedule in 2026. And it's really important. But it's not going to matter, man. I'll be honest with you. Because unless you get a Texas schedule, then it will matter. But outside of that, every single schedule was hard this year for everybody. Florida had a real bad one. Florida's was even tougher than Oklahoma's, to be honest with you. Alabama's was pretty bad. LSU had a pretty hard one. Auburn had a pretty hard one. Ole Miss, Georgia, that's another one. Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma. Those 3 teams had the top 3 schedules. Alabama, I think, were probably about 4th in toughness, in my opinion. Those were the top 4 there. As far as strength of schedule. I mean, for the 2026-2027 schedule, Oklahoma ACC schedule will flip-flop from Texas. I'm confident it will happen. Yes, the SEC is blue regardless. Well, it hasn't officially been posted yet what their schedule is going to be, so we really don't know how easy it's going to be. I mean, a couple of years, Kentucky may be great, and they'll put Kentucky on your schedule, and you're like, damn, they screwed us again. Kentucky's great. It's hard to tell how good teams are going to be 3 or 4 years from now. Whenever Oklahoma does finally get it together, they don't play Alabama that year because they play us hard and always have. That's true. We got a visitor in here. Going to bring in a guy that knows how to wrinkle feathers about as good as I do. I think he's made people wet their diapers quite profusely a few times. Here he is, Mr. I'm going to make them wet their diapers.
What's going on?
How's it going, brother? Long time no talk to you.
I hear you. Just got off of damn work.
I was going to say long time no see, but I go on your little live streams and troll the hell out of you.
Right. So what kind of ACC mess were you talking about?
I ain't got the tabs up now, but basically Paul Finebaum and Greg Sankey in separate articles said that the ACC might have screwed themselves. And the fact that catering to Clemson and Florida State probably wasn't a good idea considering it's a fluid thing to me. I mean, Clemson and Florida State have won a lot of national championships in football, but not like to the degree that Oklahoma and Texas had when they left the Big 12. To me, there's a lot of big brands to consider in the ACC that you could really piss off, and they could leave before Clemson and they could leave before Clemson and Florida State. And Florida State and Clemson might get a little bit of karma in 4 or 5 years.
Well, they did screw themselves. I mean, unequal revenue sharing is stupid. And if you think about it, every conference has unequal revenue sharing, right? Not from the media rights perspective, but do you think Mississippi State makes the same money as Alabama does?
No.
No, nobody in the NFL makes what the Cowboys do. I know they ain't won shit in 30 years, but they make the money because people either hate watch them or they love watch them. There is no in between with the Cowboys. There's no in between with the Crimson Tide. You either love them or you hate them. There's a little bit of that with Oklahoma, Texas. All those big, huge brands got that kind of, cachet. So they could sell that to advertisers. And look, how many times does Alabama play on ESPN Plus? Like never? It would be stupid to waste one Alabama game. I don't care who they're playing. Some multi-directional, stupid-ass school out of Ohio. No one cares about that school, but they want to see Alabama play. And they're still probably going to get a couple million viewers for that game. That means nothing. Non-conference, some piece of crap, Mercer or whoever. They're not going to waste that game. But UNC, they'll put them on ACC Network 5-6 times a year. Now, so I just,
I just think that there's more brands in the ACC that could bolt before Clemson and Florida State. Whereas in the Big 12, nobody else was looking to bolt but Oklahoma and Texas. And Clemson and Florida State just automatically assume that, they're going to be the ones that end up bolting first. But what if North Carolina and Miami bolt before then?
You got to have a place to bolt to.
I know the Big Ten and the SEC.
I don't buy this. Sorry, I don't buy the BS about North Carolina. I just don't. I don't.
I've probably heard the same things you've heard, that the Big Ten and the SEC covet North Carolina for the market.
Yeah, whatever.
The Big Ten, I think it'd be more the Big Ten because the Big Ten wants to get down here in the South. They're everywhere else.
Rather be in Florida. Big Ten would rather be in Florida.
They might rather be in Florida. You might be right. What about? I mean, everybody. It's like everybody's forgot Miami. Miami's won 5 national titles.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Big Ten going after Miami or FSU or both of them. Before
they have that dreaded AAU, they got the AAU accreditation.
Well, Florida State's like a butt hair away from being AAU, and Big Ten controls that anyway.
Yeah, they do. Notre Dame got AAU. They're not even a research institution.
Yeah, Miami polishes surfboards. I don't know why they're AAU. Oregon's AAU.
I heard Miami was a commuter university. Their campus is just spread out everywhere on the panhandle down there.
I don't no. I still think Clemson and Florida State are kind of like, they're the real linchpins of the thing to me. They're the USC, they're the Texas, Oklahoma kind of thing.
So they think they are.
Well, I think the media companies think they are.
They might do it, but it just seems to me like USC and
ain't no one paying USC.
They seem like they got a much bigger brand than Florida State and Clemson overall throughout history.
Yeah, I can see that. But still, you're talking huge viewership you got to look at what's left, right? We're dealing with what's left. USC is now in the Big Ten. They ain't going nowhere. Texas, Oklahoma, they're in the SEC. They're not going to go anywhere. So those have already been divvied up. The last conference that still has some big brands in it, that's going to get divvied up. It's just too much viewership there, and there's too much money Fox or ESPN can make on that. I don't know where the money is for UNC. This ain't 20 years ago. 20 years ago, yeah, you want to get into North Carolina for all the obvious reasons. But those reasons don't really count anymore just because of how streaming's coming up and how cable and satellite's dying. No one's going to pay for that. No one, not on that level. I mean, for some program that might get 800,000 views per game, maybe, if you're lucky. No.
I argue with that UNC 7406 all the time, man. He come up on my last podcast talking that smack about the AAU and their accreditation and their academic standards and blah blah blah. They wouldn't go to the SEC and that kind of shit. And I'm like, man, you crazy as hell, man. If the SEC invited North Carolina, they'd take that invite, man.
Yeah. I mean, 30 years ago they didn't. But 30 years ago, the SEC was making about the same as the ACC. It wasn't that big a difference. None of these conferences made a whole lot more than anybody else. That has changed. This is why Texas A&M picked up the phone, called Sankey, and said, "Hey, we want that check. We want that money." The Longhorn Network didn't pay as good as everyone thought it did. So let's go.
What they cling to is they'll say, well, our grade point average requirements are 3.8 and yours is 3.6. Well, it don't matter what it is if you're fixing grades. Because you can make someone have a 3.8 regardless of what institution you're at. If you got someone fixing their grades. And North Carolina was caught up in a grade fixing scandal and they just never got punished for it.
Yeah.
So I don't hear that shit. Dean Smith, he was fixing them grades, man.
Of course. Of course. Of course they were. But look at it this way, right? People in UNC, they're kind of freaking out right now because Trump is doing a lot of cuts. UNC gets a lot of money from the federal government for what? For research, right? Looking to cut some of that. So how valuable is UNC now? If all of a sudden they don't got the same research grants that Stanford gets? I mean, they're overplaying their hand a little bit. And there's a lot of people in national media that they just go with what one guy says or one source says, and everyone's going to run off of that, right? Or the Big Ten and the SEC have invited UNC several times throughout the decades, and they've always been told no. Well, now UNC really the hell wishes they had said yes because they're idiots now. They look stupid as hell now, just like the Pac looked. It's the same thing that's going to happen. It's going to be
Pac-12 really doing it. Pac-12 really screwed themselves by listening to Kevin Warren in the Big Ten. Well, let's hold hands and have an alliance here. Let's don't raid each other's conferences. Okay. He waits a couple of years and the other man takes the two of the biggest brands. I don't know if UCLA can be considered a big brand anymore, but it is in Los Angeles. So I'm just like, damn, man, they screwed the Pac-12 hard.
Yeah, but I mean, what are you going to do when the school calls up, Warren and says, "Hey, Let's go. I mean, if you're Warren, you're going to turn that down? This shit ain't show friends, it's show business.
Right.
So that's what people tend to forget. I mean, it's about that money. It's too much. It's too much. And UCLA, they got to go just because USC wanted them to go with them. Period. I believe, if USC said, "Hey, us in Oregon," then it would have been them in Oregon. And if he said if USC wanted Utah, it would have been Utah. But there's only one conference that wanted Utah. Let's not forget that.
When USC and UCLA left, I know I wasn't the only one that thought this. I was thinking to myself, yeah, Oregon and Washington are going to end up in the Big Ten. I mean, you could just see the writing on the wall, couldn't you?
They weren't going to sign any kind of deals. This is what ultimately killed off the pack. They weren't going to sign anything with Apple. They weren't going to sign anything long term. They weren't going to sign an extension of the grant of rights. They weren't going to do any of that. They were going to hold out until they got to the Big Ten, and that's what killed them. Because that was the bulk of the Pac-12 value at that point was Oregon and Washington. and when you get lowballed by ESPN, guess what? Everyone else is going to lowball you. Just and Colorado knew that. They were talking to the Big 12 for like 9 months before they left. So they were working on that. They knew that was going to happen. And they bolted before everybody else.
Do you think the Big 12, the conference your team's in, do you think they could benefit from the ACC's demise? Maybe if the ACC, a couple of their teams leave and go to the Big 10 and the leftovers go to the Big 12, maybe it makes the Big 12 a stronger conference and maybe a stronger competitor for the Big 10 and the SEC?
Yeah, because if you think about it, ESPN and Fox, they're no longer paying the PAC. They're not going to be paying the ACC anymore. That's a whole lot of, cost savings there. And so unless a merger happens, you're going to get several ACC teams that are going to be left out in the breeze like Oregon State and Washington State were. So then you consolidate the rest of it into the Big 12 outside of a handful of big brands that go to the SEC or Big 10. But you consolidate that in there, and then you pay them because you want that content. You need the content. So you got to pay them. And they'll have plenty of money to do so since there's only going to be 3 power conferences at that point. Then you can lowball the rest of the stuff. And, yeah, that'll help the Big 12. I mean, we're never going to win championships like the SEC does. We're not going to be in it like the Big 10 is. There's too much parity in this league because everyone's kind of on an equal footing. If you look at like who would be Mississippi State right now in the Big 12, that would be UCF, right? But UCF is a young school. They're coming up.
Yeah, but the UCF has 20 years. They got a huge enrollment, and they're in a big city too. So
yeah, in 10 years, UCF could look like a damn power. So even our low brands can go.
They're probably more comparable to Baylor.
Yeah, not right now, but eventually. Baylor's going to surprise the people next year. Baylor's going to be a bastard. That quarterback, I like their quarterback a lot.
Yeah, I've heard rumors that Louisville is exploring options going to the Big 12.
That's the team. That's the one that's going to be the Colorado for the ACC. Because think about how they're setting this up. They're not going to be playing Notre Dame as much as the other schools are, those top 3 dogs anyway. They're not going to get all this brand revenue. They're not going to get the kind of viewership money from these other people. That's the problem. And so Louisville is going to feel some kind of way about it. They already do feel some kind of way about that. And now when you have the Big 12 doing a private capital deal, that's going to go down. So they're going to have a lot of excess money. They're going to be able to help these schools pay that exit fee and come on over to the Big 12, especially a school that's pissed off like Louisville. And I guarantee you, if they're not pissed off now, they're going to be in a short order.
Yeah, that's another team I forget is Louisville. Louisville, I mean, the last couple of years before this year, have been sliding in basketball, but Louisville is a blue blood in basketball to me. They've won a few national titles too in basketball. They're the second biggest money making sport.
They're legit. They're good. They're a good football program too. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, they're not Alabama, but they're hell, they look just like a Big 12 team to me, a top level Big 12 team.
Yeah, and I've always said that the Big 12 could always build a blue blood within that conference eventually. You would think someone would take the reins and sort of run with it.
I mean,
maybe they brought in a Louisville or Pittsburgh or somebody like that. I don't know.
The thing is, like, I mean, this, Alabama just, they didn't win a couple titles and they became a blue blood. That's
Right.
something that was generated over decades and decades. Ohio State, Michigan, schools like that have been at it for a very, very long time. People can piss all over Notre Dame all they want, but Notre Dame has been doing it for a very long, long time at a very high level. So the Cowboys didn't become the Cowboys, it was really the 90s group that really solidified what they were. So that took like 30 years for them to get to their level. So when, some people have said, hey, you need to get a blue blood out of the Big 12, but that's something it takes an awfully long time to get to. And for the Big 12, I don't think it's really necessary. As long as you have some brands that compete on a high level from time to time and can make a run in the playoffs, and I think they can, that's all you need. It doesn't have to be the same 2 or 3 teams every year or same 1 team every year. As long as everyone knows how to build or at different times and can take advantage, because you have a certain window when you get that team, especially when you get that quarterback. They'll give you a 2-3 year window. As long as you can take advantage of it and you got the right coach, the right recruiting, and with the transfer portal, you can build pretty quick. So I'm not overly worried about not having a blue blood. I kind of like going into a year and I don't know who the bastard I need to hate is, right? So next year I might need to hate Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Because they might buy a freaking title next year, at least in the Big 12.
NIL Commish says SMU will look like a powerhouse soon. Money talks. But, SMU's in a conference that might be about to be picked apart. So they're going to be a powerhouse in what?
Pac-12?
The Pac-12 still around. I know they still got 2 teams. Does that really count?
You're going to have to get more viewership than what they got.
They're going to get more teams than what they got.
Yeah. But, I mean, they did great last year. That was awesome.
You know what? They don't really deserve a power label if they go out and add a bunch of Mountain West teams. They're really not a power conference anymore, are they?
Who's that?
Pac-12. Pac-2.
No. They're not an autonomous conference. They lost that. They're not going to get it back.
I mean, they go out and add a bunch of Mountain West teams. They're not really a power conference anymore, are they?
No, they're not right now. And they're not going to get that back.
Now,
The SEC and the Big Ten ain't going to allow them to get that back.
Y'all added a few G5 schools, but they were the creme de la creme of G5. These were schools that probably deserved to be on the power level, like the BYU, the UCF, the Houstons. They all got the market and the fan following to do it. BYU is a sleeping giant to me.
The Pac-12 was absolutely stupid for never grabbing BYU. That was just dumb. We were just sitting there like, hey, thanks. We appreciate it. That helped us get that deal, the media deal that we did get. So, yeah, I mean, I totally appreciate the Pac-12 being stupid. Go ahead and hate the Christians all you want. Woo.
Yeah, well, the Pac-12 had a chance to raid the Big 12 when that shit went down with Oklahoma and Texas, and they could have killed the Big 12 if they'd done that, but they listened to Kevin Warren and them. Don't do that. Don't add none of them Big 12 schools, man. They're not academically sound.
The ACC could have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The ACC
Kansas
and the Pac-12, they both got screwed by the Big 10.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the ACC, they could have had Kansas.
Kansas
Iowa
is in the Big Ten so bad, man. They look like they're about to stalk somebody. They've been pining for the Big Ten forever, Kansas.
Well, they could pine all they want. They're right here in this bitch with us. They ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, I got on these guys the other day. These guys that locked on Big 12. Drake, C. Toll, and Cam Stewart, or whatever their names are. I grilled the hell out of them because they were talking about Oklahoma was coming back to the Big 12.
No.
But they were doing it in a backhanded way, man. I had to go in there and take up for Oklahoma. I'm like, man, y'all done lost your damn mind, man.
Like I saw this. All I saw was the thumbnail. It was like what was it, Kurt from Kansas, Kurt something. But he's more quote unquote serious sports guy, and so we had a video out there about hey. OU could come back. I'm like, they're not coming back. Are you see the paycheck? I mean, look at the paycheck.
Well, they said something sort of stupid. They said, well, they sort of now really making much more money than they were making in the Big 12. I'm like, what are you talking about, man?
They just got there. They just got there.
That's why he says, like, man, they have been a total failure. I'm like, man, they've been in there 1 year, man.
Hold up. Just in the CFP payout in 2026, Oklahoma is going to get $23 million a year just off the CFP for being in the SEC.
That's right.
Are you stupid? There's no way.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's getting that too.
We're getting 12.
That's
what
what
Florida State. Y'all getting 23.
That's what Florida State and Clemson are so pissed off about is their rivals in state are getting them big payouts and they're not getting them.
Nope. That's why they're gone. Yeah, John Kurtz. That's who it is. John Kurtz. That was not a good look for John Kurtz.
Yeah, John was the one that brought it up, and them two took it and run with it. Like, oh, John Kurtz said this. It's got to be true. I'm like, John Kurtz does have some connections and whatnot, but that doesn't mean he's right. Just because he knows some people doesn't mean what he says is right, man. That's just wishful thinking, him being a troll.
Yeah, I mean, I got connections too, but they don't know shit. You know somebody? Oh, woo! I don't care. You're in Kansas. What do you know in Kansas? I mean, it's not the hub of media up there. It's like a couple of gangbangers and some dust bunnies running around. And hey, they got wheat.
Commish says he loved me grilling the Baylor guys. They literally said we would be great in the Big 12, but bottom of the SEC. Kind of dumb for them to say. Yeah, it was kind of dumb for them to say because they're running down their own conference. They're saying that if Oklahoma would come back to the Big 12, that they would dominate the Big 12, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I mean, the SEC probably is a little bit tougher than the Big 12, but last year we looked a little bit like we were slipping a little bit. Looks like things are starting to even out a little bit with all the NIL and the transfer portal. The SEC and the Big 10 may not be as dominant in the future as people think.
People need to stop talking about the whole, well, if this team goes to that conference, they're going to dominate. Why would they come back to dominate when they're going to lose money to come back? And not a little bit. They would lose a lot of money to come back. Right now, they're in a great place for revenue sharing. They come to the Big 12, that's going to be a bit more of a struggle for OU.
You're probably not going to be able to read this, but it was just a tweet that I made on X about those two guys. And I tagged them in it, and then I went to look for it the next day. I'd already screenshotted it because I was going to show it to a bunch of people. Good thing I screenshotted it because the next day I went in there to look for it. It was gone. It had been removed. I thought X was, the king of not censoring people. They took my shit down. Those Big 12 guys at Locked On Sports reported me to X, and they took the shit down. So I screenshotted it, and I put it back up on X today as a screenshot.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, you can disagree with me, but why you got to go tattle on me, man? I thought And someone told me, oh, that dude's got thick skin. You can't rattle him. I'm like, man, anybody can be rattled. Anybody. And they went and tattled on me and got my shit took down. But luckily I had screenshotted it, so it's back up on X again.
I mean, I there ain't no excuse for that. And trust me, I got some real punks that come into my comments sometimes. I leave it all up. You know,
That's the fun is disagreeing, right?
If you want to come on there and show your anus, go ahead. You know, I'll put a boot in it. It's no problem. Not a problem at all. But yeah, that's weak stuff right there.
Crazy anime gamers in here. They cried about your ex post and got it removed. Children. Crazy anime gamer. I forgot to ask, well, who's your team? Are you Alabama? Because I was going to tell you something that I pulled up a while ago. I don't know if you saw it, numbskull, but a few people wrote into the FCC and told on Nick Saban for saying the word shit. Did you see it?
I did not.
They took the time to write. They took the time to write and email the FCS about him using the word shit. He said that, you know, these teams fining the NCAA fining teams $100,000 for the flag planting is like worrying about mouse manure and a pile of elephant shit. And they went and they reported him for saying elephant shit.
But he's on the TV now, right? He's on ESPN.
Yeah, they reported him and Pat McAfee. They wrote a letter about him.
Write your letter. What is this, Tipper Gore?
I'm like, man, I don't understand if they's on there dropping F-bombs and saying MF and the P word. But, man, they weren't saying anything vulgar. These are like PG-13 words that you hear on Saved by the Bell or something, man.
Look, say what you want about Nick Saban. He's pretty damn good on TV. He's got a gift. You don't like him, turn the channel.
He got them zingers, man. He's like one of them smack talking wrestlers on WWE.
Dude, people, you know, there was that story where people on ESPN apparently didn't like Pat McAfee very, very much. Nick Saban does like him. They mesh well together. So if you don't like that, that's a great look. I'm not a huge Saban guy either, but when he's good, he's good. You got to give it up. Oh, no, he said the S word. Oh, no. Man, some people need to pull out their tampon and grow up.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to find it now. I'm going to show it to you. It's pretty funny, actually. I thought it was pretty funny. Yeah, here it is right here. You see that?
A little bit.
Anyway, it says Saban discussed schools that were fined the week before due to the flag planting incident. He said, I think to fine these schools $100,000 is like worrying about mouse manure when you're up to your ears in elephant shit. I just said shit again. Someone's going to report me probably. I do get reported now. Me and Saban got that in common.
He's a football coach. What do you expect? He's supposed to be all buttoned up, and he ain't even in the 1940s. I mean, what do you think Bear Bryant would sound like with modern microphones? It probably get canceled, right?
Yeah, it says the quip come from some listener in Lee Summit, Missouri. So now I'm going to start hating Missouri people just like Oklahoma people do. Start calling them mid-poo.
Man, go move to a real town. Good grief. Missouri. They're just mad because they ain't got Dollywood.
He said, a couple of guys wrote in actually. One of them said the window is a 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for children sensitive program. No one is able to sit down with their children and watch a football show without exposing them to profanity. That was his complaint. Like I said, I can understand if he was dropping the F-bomb or something.
Are you worried about that? You worried about that? Okay, there's a lot more.
I was like, man, you probably say that word in front of them all the time. And if you send them to a public school or even a private school, any kind of school, them kids are going to be cussing in front of each other.
Yeah. Dude, I can't relate to this crap because I was raised by truck drivers. I heard everything. Everything. And my parents didn't care. They didn't even try to tone it down. They would just slap me in the face if I said it to a teacher. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just common sense when to cuss and when not to. I mean, you don't see Saban going to his Catholic churches and probably cussing like that, talking about elephant shit at mass or anything. So, you know.
No, probably not. But come on. He's got a point.
They told him for saying he needs to join. From the time I told a player he wanted to talk shit on the field, he needs to go join the goddamn debate team. Well, got him in trouble, man. Now, that is a word I try not to say. It's GD, but just saying, man, it's just like this dude. I know it's so hypocritical to me because I know he's got to be lying. That, you know, the word shit, really.
Like I said, I was raised by truck drivers. They didn't care what I watched. They didn't care. They didn't try to watch their mouth. Nothing. It was just a different type of home I was in. So I as far as like, oh, the poor kids, shut up. Turn the channel. You ain't
try to act like it's more of a Southern thing too. I'm like, man, have you ever heard people from Boston and New York?
Hold on. I've raised 4 kids. Not a one of them wanted to watch a pregame show. None of them. You think you can believe your children are watching pregame? No.
I doubt they're very seriously anybody under the age of 10 that's watching.
No, they're listening to hip hop. They're listening to old girl talking about WAP, right?
Back in the day, I was watching like the Smurfs or something.
These Smurfs are a little more adult oriented these days. I ain't buying that. It's like I said, it's a bunch of wet blankets out there. Don't hide behind your kids. It ain't your kids. It's your weak ass. That's what it is. And like I said, I'm not a Saban fan, but shut up. You don't like Saban, turn the channel. It's always been that way. You don't like Howard Stern, turn the channel. You don't like what's on HBO, cancel your subscription. Shut up. Turn the channel. I hate all this. We got to cancel people. Shut up. Turn the channel. No one cares about your feelings. Nobody. Not even God cares about your feelings with that.
I just, like I said, man, it was such a lame PG-13 kind of word. I just like, man, really? Are you young? Damn, man. I mean, I'm sure they've heard a lot worse at their schools that they attend.
Yeah, the teacher's a C word. That's probably the same kid, too, that said, because he's probably calling his wife a C word right in front of the kids. Oh, did you hear Sankey? Shut up, you C word. Get over here. Look at what Sankey said.
It's just, I don't know, man. I guarantee you that guy's probably a skittle shitter. No doubt.
Yeah.
Of some variety of some kind of. Man, I was trying to watch an old show the other day with my wife. It's called Younger. I don't know if you heard of it or not. But I was enjoying it, man. It was a good comedy. And I was like, man, and they started talking that liberal horse shit on there, man. And I'm like, man, why can't y'all just leave that shit out of the movies and the TV, man? I mean, really? You got to go around talking that smack all the time? And you're going to worry about someone else not using the right pronouns, but you want to censor everybody else, but you want to get on there and talk. See, that's what gets me about these people, man. That guy probably wants to get on here and talk about what he wants to talk about, and it might offend somebody, but he don't care as long as he's not offended.
Yep. As long as you're in the right, as long as you think you're in the right, then everybody else is wrong. And then I get called an a-hole when I do the same thing.
So before I get out of here, I'd like to ask you, in the future, as far as this whole conference realignment goes and the ACC and whatnot. In 2030, what do you see happening? What do you think is going to happen with the ACC and the Big 12?
Well, I think Clemson and actually I think Clemson and Florida State will get out early. I think ESPN will pay them to get out early and get them to where they want them to go, which is the SEC. They don't want to lose that to Fox.
Yeah,
they ain't going to try to lose it to Fox.
I didn't think about that. And that is true. It's like I was saying earlier. Not necessarily the SEC. I said the SEC probably wouldn't want the Big Ten to get those two teams, and they would probably take them just to keep the Big Ten from getting them, right?
Yeah.
But it's probably more ESPN, like you're saying. ESPN's probably like, yeah, we don't want that going over to Fox. We don't want Fox down here in the South.
And what they'll do is they'll take the amount of money they need from the CFP, they'll just transfer that over to the SEC to cover those two, so no one loses any money. It's not hard to do. They get that. And then Louisville is going to say, screw this. They'll pay the money. They'll get out of there in 2030. Someone else is going to go with Louisville. I don't know who. Could be Virginia Tech. Could be Georgia Tech. Whoever is willing to put up the money or the Big 12 willing to help out to move over, then they'll move them over.
What about the three teams?
Pretty much everybody else will stay until 2036.
What about the three teams I just added? SMU, California, and Stanford. What do you think happens to them?
Pac-12.
Go back to the Pac-12, reform it.
Yeah, Cal and Stanford, they'll stay in the ACC till 2036. Then they'll bolt right back because the money ain't going to be much different at that point. Not between them two. Because, I mean, without all your big brands, I mean, why are you paying the ACC big money? You ain't going to.
What about the Northeast schools? Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Boston College?
Everyone says Pitt to the Big 12. I don't know. I really don't know. To me, I think I'd rather have Syracuse.
I know West Virginia people would really like that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Pitt's like one of their main rivals.
You can keep playing them in the non-conference. Be happy with Virginia Tech. Maybe we can get you Virginia too, because there ain't but 5 people that watch Virginia football. 5 people, 5 watch Virginia football, and people think that's going to the SEC.
Have you ever watched a game from Virginia?
What's that?
Have you ever watched a game from Virginia, like when they have a home game on TV? I can't watch it but maybe 2 or 3 minutes, man. It's awful. It's like being at a Yale seminar or some shit. I'm just like, damn, man, this shit's boring.
No, well, good luck finding it too. It's not unless you subscribe to the ACC network. It's kind of tough to find a Virginia game.
That's right. Well, all right, brother. I'm fixing to get up out of here. I appreciate you coming on and helping me out. Give me some,
man.
Give me some of that Big 12 knowledge.
What little I have, yeah. All right, man.
Hey, tell us where we can find you before you go.
Oh, just Numbskull News, YouTube, X. That's the only places I trifle around on.
All right, man. Maybe we can hook up and I can do a show on your channel soon.
Absolutely. See what we can do.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right, man. Take care. Take it easy.
And that was, I like to call him Numsy. You may not like me calling him Numsy. I'll have to ask him. I just thought it was pretty cool how I shortened that shit. Just trying to be a little affectionate. But that's Numbskull News. And he does a lot of Big 12 stuff. He's a TCU guy. He loves them Horned Frogs. I give him a hell about it every once in a while, but I must admit, I do like TCU a little bit. I used to like, what was his name? Gary. What was his last name? The guy that used to be the coach there. He was a legend there. They made a statue for him. He ended up being a defensive coordinator, I think, at Texas. Gary something. But anyway, if you guys and gals got any more questions before I get out of here, drop it in the comment section right here real quick, and I'll go ahead and try to answer as many of these questions as I can before I go. See who we got. Donnie. Donnie says, I'm sure some BYU coaches have dropped some 4-letter words. Yeah, I'm sure they have. This guy was from Missouri, and he called in or wrote a letter or emailed, took the time to email someone over the word shit. Yeah. PG-13 stuff. Really? Thunder U Center says, what Barry Switzer would have sounded like when he was coaching. Well, see, Saban wasn't coaching. That's the thing. This wasn't them tattling on him for saying stuff on the field. He was in the booth at ESPN where there are FCC regulations. But they're real loose with it, I must say. They don't enforce it as much, especially when it's just a PG-13 word that you probably hear at school every day if you're a child or kid attending a public or private school. Unless you homeschool them and you can keep them from hearing it, man, it's just somebody being a hater and wanting to just have something to complain about, in my opinion. Crazy Anime Gamer 3 says, BYU, the perfect no-nonsense religious school. Larry Trowicki, our Nebraska guy, says, hey, how do you think Colorado will do with no Travis, Shadur, Shiloh, and Jimmy Horn? I think they're not going to do too well. I think they might sink back down to where they are normally at, that being 4-8. It would not surprise me next year if Colorado went 4-8. Maybe 5-7 if they're lucky. Because like you said, Larry, they lost a lot of talent. And we're going to see exactly how good Deion Sanders really is at this level. They give him sort of an easy schedule. They give Colorado a Texas-type schedule when they joined the Big 12. And it made it real easy on them, in my opinion. So this year, I think it's going to come down a notch. So I'm going to say 5-7. Bag Ben says, also, Texas fans bragging about Saban wanting to live in Austin is weird. He never lived there, so why talk about it? Well, there was a time where, right after 2011 season that there was a rumor that Texas was going after Nick Saban after Mac Brown left, and they were throwing the Brinks truck at him, and he actually considered it, and he probably did. But that big tornado hit Tuscaloosa, and it really struck him and his wife, how the community fought through that and how they helped them fight through it. And they just grew really attached to the Tuscaloosa community after that big tornado hit in 2011. And out of tragedy comes some good. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes out of tragedy, good things happen, right? Donnie said, shouldn't the Big Ten want Georgia Tech since they're in Atlanta? Yeah, I just talked about that, Donnie, a few minutes back. I was talking about, the Big Ten may want Georgia Tech. It's a big market. Atlanta's a good market. Georgia probably won't be too happy about that. But, yeah, it would not surprise me if the Big Ten did go after Georgia Tech. Crazy Anime Gamer says Gary Patterson. Yeah, that's his name. I couldn't remember for some reason. I'm getting old, man. But, yeah, I always liked Gary Patterson, so I always liked TCU. All right, appreciate y'all hanging out with me tonight. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Also, you can join the Outlaw Posse, get your badge, get deputized. Like Nakia Webb did at the beginning of the show, and get your Random Four Horsemen shout out like those other guys did at the beginning of the show, as well as possibly the comment day, 75 cents. That's 75 cents a week, $2.99 a month. Just half a bottle of water for the Outlaw. It's a little join button over by the subscribe button. KMCA to all the other teams. Class is now officially dismissed.